Welcome to the channel Get Rich. Today, the company I am going to talk about is Persistent Systems. Persistent Systems is an information technology company. It's a mid-cap company. So, today I will split this analysis into three steps: about the business of Persistent Systems, financials of Persistent Systems, and its valuation. So, let's get started. So, about the business. So, Persistent Systems founded in 1990, and they have around 10,000 employees in their company, and they are active in about 20 countries. So, they are in Canada, America, UK, Ireland, France, Germany, like Europe, India, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore. Yeah, you can see it in the graph. So, they are a global player. So, they have around 1,000 plus active clients annually. So, what do they do? So, persistent systems are experts in data, cloud, security, artificial intelligence, and analytics. They have deep partnerships and expertise in Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and IBM clouds, and recognized depth in business process platforms from Salesforce, Appian, OutSystems, Dassault, and IBM. They are the domain experts in three different industry segments. So this quarter only they have added 53 new accounts to Persistent's customer list. So and it was highlighted by some multiple marquee wins as well. So what are their key business segments? They have three key business segments. So the first one is BFSI, which is banking and financial services and insurance sector, and the second one is healthcare and life sciences, and the third one is industrial sector. So if you look at the revenue percentage of these segments, so BFSI leads around 30% in the last quarter, and they have around 19% from healthcare and life science, and the remaining 50% from technology companies and emerging verticals. So what are the emerging verticals? So they are actively involved in industrial sector, and they have travel business, they have transportation sector. So and they also work with blockchain, they also work with other emerging verticals. So these business they put it in the other emerging verticals. So then let's look into BFSI business. So what do they do in BFSI business? So they have a digital credit union solution. So they enable credit unions to quickly deploy new digital capabilities, including lending and deposits, with services from Gojuko, built with Mambu, and they are available in Amazon Web Services. So then they also have digital banking enablement. So what are they? So enabling banks to build a set of digital native banking services and core banking processes. So they have these kind of products, so they can just use it from Amazon Web Services, and they can start from day one. It's a quick, faster to market. And then they have banking operations automation. So they leverage artificial intelligence to drive efficiency and to improve compliance to unlocking the available data. So they automate several banking operations, and they have business system transformations. They are also involved in insurance underwriting and claims automation. So they automate things, and they are also involved in wealth and pension solutions. So in this digital banking offering, so it is now approved by Amazon and listed in the AWS Financial Services Solutions site. So what's special in there? So the special thing is they are one of only 5 vendors that has an approved AWS Financial Services solution for sale and approved by Amazon, in a very rare occurrence of being a small set of vendors in this area. So what about their client wins in the latest quarter? So they say they have a leading private bank in Asia Pacific employed them to help build a digital bank with them. So they were chosen as a primary systems integrator, helping them launch micro loans, savings, and insurance products via mobile apps. So this is the first one. And then they have another leading bank in the United States, so which is among the top five, one of the top five banks. So they brought them in for their expertise around artificial intelligence and machine learning to create a chatbot experience of personalization. So let's go into the next vertical. So which is healthcare and life sciences. So what do they do in healthcare and life sciences business? So they do genomic and multinomics data analysis and integration. It's about data analysis, and they also do product engineering services, and they also help patient experiences, which is how do we handle data from different patients within their hospitals. And they also have engagement platforms via Salesforce. They have hospital operations optimization, how do we allocate resources and these kind of things. And they also have CRM solutions via Salesforce. So in the pharma sector, so about the customer wins, they have a global pharma company. They created a roadmap for how they are moving to digital persona and how they see the world and their future structures as an IT organization. So, and then they have a win with a top general insurance provider in India. They were chosen to provide key business applications based on a low code, no code platform. And then they are working with a large pharma company, one of the top five globally on application portfolio. So they have an optimization and a digital roadmap helping them go over the next year on digital cloud based native applications. So these are all their main wins. So if we go to the next, the other business segments, what are the other business segments? They also do software product engineering. They work with machine learning. They have identity access and security. They are working with cloud migration, and they also work with data engineering, and they also do internet of things in industrial sector. The industrial sector, it's growing much higher growth than other verticals. So in this customer wins, they were chosen by an AI-led education tech startup to build an AI-powered learning and score improvement plan. Overall, their pipeline looks healthy in the coming quarter. So then, what are the growth opportunities of persistent systems? So the first one is IBM Red Hat opportunity. For people who don't know what is Red Hat, Red Hat is an American multinational software company that provides open source software products to the enterprise community. It is recently acquired by IBM. So what's special in there? The main thing is IBM is the single most highest revenue provider for persistent systems. They are the top customer for persistent systems. Around 20 to 25% of their revenue comes from IBM. So IBM acquired Red Hat. Persistent systems, they are the leading provider for helping with IBM in this software migration services. The Red Hat, so they want to integrate with the IBM. So they see lot of potential opportunity for persistent systems to have higher revenues in the future. So then industrial sector growth, as I said, they are growing industrial sector very much. So it's growing in high number. For the industrial sector, it can grow in a much higher pace than other categories. And then they are working in emerging technologies. So what are they are working in blockchain. If you don't know what is blockchain, recently, if you know cryptocurrencies, yeah, that's based on blockchain. So it's also new field which is emerging field. And they also working with the machine learning, genomics, intelligent robotic process automation. So these things can provide some growth to them, the growth opportunities. And then last but not least, they have lots of cash in the balance sheet. They have a strong balance sheet and they have lots of cash. So they can acquire companies and grow inorganically. These are the growth opportunities for persistent systems I am seeing now. So then, employee growth, how the number of employees growing in the persistent systems. So it starts with 8500 in 2015, it grows up, but then in 2018 you see a dip, and then now they increased it to 9960 in the financial year of 2019, and they already passed 10,000 number in May or something. So as we see, they are increasing their employees, so they can see they are seeing some potential growth in the future. That's why they are increasing their employees. So I can see their growth is going to come, because if you, I'm just going to come in the next about their growth. Now they are growing bit less, but then I think they are going to grow at a much faster pace than current growth in the near future. So then geographical mix. So where are their revenues coming from? So if you see, almost 80% of their revenues are coming from North America, and 10% is coming from Europe, 7.5% is coming from India, and 2% coming from rest of the world. So they have high concentration in North America. So in order to diversify that, they acquired Youp Experience and also other company in Europe to expand their revenues and their foothold in Europe. So they are diversifying, but still as of now they have high dependence in North America. So then if you see their top account concentration, where are their revenues coming from which customers? So you see it's almost 26% of their revenue is coming from their top customer. As I said, it's IBM, and it's decreasing. If you see, there is a drop in account concentration from 26% to 21%. If you see, it's good because you don't have to rely on the top customer, but then it is supported by other accounts which are growing much higher rate. That's good, but then if this is decreasing in a sequential manner, that's not good. That's why a lot of analysts are worried about this particular revenue drop from the top customers. So this drop in their largest customer revenue impacted their EBIT margin as well. So they know it and they have focused a plan to get it back to where it was. So their strategy to balance the variation in the largest client revenue is starting to yield some results. So they continue, as they talk about in the previous quarters, they grow their industry sector business with a huge margin. So, however, industrial sector revenue is approximately a quarter of size of their total alliance unit revenue. So it's growing, but it will take several quarters to see their impact in their overall revenue allocation. So they have built new offerings in industrial sector, healthcare, and data. So they signed up new partnership across the category. So they will decrease their dependence on the top customer. So almost 50% of their revenue is coming from top 10. So if you compare with other companies, it's quite a bit on the higher side, but it's still okay. There are a lot of companies they are relying on their top 10 customers. And then if you look at the revenue coming from the large and medium customers, so large customer is greater than USD 3 million USD. So in financial 18 it is 18 accounts which are yielding more than 3 million US dollar, and financial 19 it's 20, and it's increased to 22 in quarter 1, and it reduced to 20 in quarter 2, and it again increased to 22. So it's, I would say, roughly they are growing slowly, but it's staying around the same number. If you look at the medium revenue, which is 1 million to 3 million, so it started with 53 in financial 18 and it's grew to 57, and then it again went back to 53. So they are managing it well in the same number, but they are not growing their potential customers account higher. So in their management call, they mentioned that they are aware of it. So they try to increase the amount, for example the 3 million customers to 5 million to 10 million, but not like increasing their number. So they are aware of that. They are also trying to solve what can be changed to increase these numbers. So then about the income statement. So if you see their revenue, it grows nicely. So from 2015, it's around 1,890 crores. It increased to 2,300 crores. It's increasing steadily, so 3,400 crores. Their revenue is growing steadily. But if you look at profit after tax, it's not growing the same as revenues. So that's the problem. Their EBITDA margin is dropping. So their revenues are not seeing in the bottom line, which is profit after tax, which is not showing the same growth as revenues. So a lot of analysts are concerned of that. So that's why the stock down is not going up much in the past 3 4 years. But then I feel the trend is bottoming out, and then their margin is starting to improve from this year as well. So if you see the margin, so operating margin, it reduced from 16% to 14% to 11%. So now it's currently it's at 10% or something. So it's bottoming out this year. I am sure it's going to bottom out. So why this margin is reducing? So if you look at deeply why this margin reduction, so if you look at the revenue of persistent systems, they have some service business, they have some revenues coming from IPs. So IP-led revenues are highly profitable. They have high margin, high profitable business. So in financial 18, you see IP-led business delivers around 26% of the revenue, and financial 19 is 25%. If you see last quarter, it's just around 21%. So a lot of shareholders and analysts are concerned about this IP-led revenue, which is reducing, and as you know, it is also coming from their biggest customer, which is IBM. So what they said is they are quite aware of it, and this is a cyclical business. So because it's mostly based on their IBM sales number, so they have the cyclical business. That's why it's decreasing. They say it's going to go up. It's nothing to worry. It will go up since just because it's a cyclical number, the number is going down, but it will gain strength going into the future quarters. So they are confident of it. I'm also confident that it will starting to go up a bit, and it will increase the margins as well going into the future. So let's look at the dividend of Persistent Systems. So if you look at the dividend payout ratio, it's quite constant around 33%, 27%, 28%, 28%, and 30%. So their dividend payout ratio is quite constant, and it's okay. And then if you look at the dividend per share, so in 2015 they gave 10 rupees, 2016 8 rupees, 2017 9 rupees, 2018 10 rupees, 2019 11 rupees, currently 12 rupees. So if you look at the dividend yield, it was 1.1%, 1.3%, 1.6%. Currently, if you look at the dividend yield, it's around 2.4% dividend yield, which is a good yield when compared to other some of the growing companies. So then, balance sheet, what do they have? So if you look at the assets, look at the cash and investments. They have around 1,350 crores as cash and investments. If you just convert it into per share, so it's around 175 rupees per share they are holding cash. The stock is selling at around 495 rupees as of today. They have 175 rupees as just cash and investments. And look at the other current assets, they have 1000 crores. So out of 300 rupees, which is a book value of Persistent Systems, they are having most of the asset as liquid asset, or they are having as cash and investments. So which is huge. So they have like lots of cash lying around in the balance sheet. They can use it well, especially in this scenario. A lot of companies in this current crisis, a lot of companies will go bankrupt, a lot of companies will drop in value, so they can easily go and buy some good companies with cheap valuations because they have lots of cash, so they can grow inorganically. So it's a very very positive for the company. And then if you look at the fixed assets, it's steadily growing. If you look at the net worth, it's steadily growing. So that's good. So if you look at the return on asset, it's decreasing. That's a bad sign. It started with 18% in 2015, and it's just around 12% this year to date. So that's not a good sign. But if you look at if you compare with the index, IT index return on asset, it's around 10.44%. So that's okay. So that's still okay, but they have to improve their return on assets and return on equity compared to the previous quarters or previous financial years. So their return on equity as well decreased, and also return on invested capital, but that's still fine, I think. And then shareholding pattern. So if you look at the shareholding pattern, the promoters hold 31.44%. So if you see historically in March 2019, it's around 30.61, which is increased to 31.44, almost a percent increase, which is a good sign. Promoters are buying. And then you have other mutual funds, they have 22.61%, and then FII they have 20%, and public they have around 21%. So if you see FII plus DII holding in Persistent System from the past quarters, so in March 2019 it was around 42.8%, in December 2019 it was around 42.98%, and March 2020 it was around 44.76%. So mutual funds have increased their holdings by 1.82% in just the last quarter. Number of FII holding stock rose by 14 to 201 in March 2020 quarter. So FII are buying, DII are buying, mutual funds are buying, promoters are buying. They see value in the company. So in this financial crisis, lot of shares are going down 30%, 40%. Even Persistent System is going down. Lot of FII, DII are selling and getting out of the stock. but they are buying into Persistent Systems, so they have belief in the company. That is a good thing. And then if you look at the mutual funds which are holding Persistent Systems, so the first one is HDFC Small Cap. They have around 3.74% stake in Persistent Systems, but if you look at their percentage total asset, they have 2.52% of their entire holding in Persistent Systems. And then if you look at the next one, L&T Emerging Business, they have 3.07 percentage shareholding in Persistent Systems, but they hold around 3.39% of their total asset in Persistent Systems. Look at Parag Parikh, one of the good mutual funds. So they have around 2.7% stake in Persistent Systems, but 4.65% of their total assets in Persistent Systems. Look at that. So because these mutual funds, they have huge AUMs, so they have crores of money, and then they are investing almost 4.65% or 3%, 2% in Persistent Systems. So they have huge stake and huge bet in this mid cap company. So if you look at other holdings, they have HDFC Midcap, ICC Prudential Value, L&T India, HDFC Capital, Kotak Emerging Equity, some of the foreign investment funds, Vanguard, Fidelity. Yeah, there are a lot of people holding Persistent Systems. And then coming to the valuation, let's look at their historical price to earnings, price to sales, price to cash flow, price to book. So their price to earnings, it was around 17.72 in 2015, 2016 is 16, 2017 is around 18, and so on. So 5-year average, it's around 17 PE, but currently they are trading at around 11.48. Very, very cheap compared to the historic valuation. Price to cash flow, it's around 17.83. So if you compare with the index, so for example, price to earnings, IT index price to earnings is 14.92, Persistent Systems is 11.48. Price to book index is 2.04, Persistent Systems 1.62. It's trading really, really cheap valuation, Persistent Systems. So I can understand that because they have their growth rate is coming down, their EBITDA margin is coming down, their revenue from the top account is coming down. So that's why the stock is trading at a very cheap valuation because of this financial crisis. They have a huge cash in their balance sheet. So I am sure they will survive this crisis and they will emerge stronger. So revenues, what am I projecting for the next financial years? So next year I am projecting around 10% growth, revenue growth for the next 3 years, and net profit which is going to around 12% to 13% in average for the next 3 years. My price target with the current valuation, which is trading very, very cheap at a PE of 11. So in 1 year the price target would be 533, 2 years 606, 3 years 689. So it's around 7%, 22%, 39% cumulative growth for the next 1 to 3 years. So which is very, very cheap. And if you look at the average PE, which is 17, which is trading for the Persistent Systems, which was trading for the past 5 years. So if you estimate price with a PE of 17, in 1 year their price target is 823. In 2 years the price target is 937. In 3 years the price target is 1065. So the cumulative price growth is 66% for 1 year, 89% for 2 year, and 115% for 3 year. You can almost double your money in just 3 years with this stock. So also we note that there are some problems because their growth is not so visible. They have business deals, they are winning customers, but then their EBITDA margin is coming down, their IP led business growth is coming down. So now it's all negative. So we cannot see a clear positive trend, but I feel the margin is bottoming out and they are starting to gain traction and they are going to get growth back. So I am quite confident that it will reach to this 17p and with a price target of 1065 for the next 3 years. Also they have also done some share buybacks for around 225 crores. So they have around a lot of cash, as I said. So it's a huge opportunity in this stock. So I would say, yeah, one can put small amounts of money. You can start buying. Don't put all the cash at once, but buy at divide your investments into 3 or 4 times and just put small things and then buy in a staggered manner instead of putting all at once. So but then you have to do your due diligence before investing in any stock. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching and have a nice day. So if you like this video, so like, share and comment. If you want me to review some other companies, write in the comment.